here, if we can wait just to the end to do the record, just he might show up. If not, then we'll do it at the end. That's okay?
Some of these people are teachers.
Huh?
Some of these people are teachers. That
Okay.
go back in their school. Remember that.
I don't, is it okay, y'all have time to stick around with us for a few minutes, the teachers and?
It'll take more than a few minutes.
I don't think we're gonna be long today, but if you can do that, is it okay with y'all? Okay with you?
What do y'all teach?
Look, it's free entertainment today, okay, we're good. All right, so we'll do that and give Dr. Crenshaw a few minutes to get here. I'm sure he's in a meeting. Do we have any citizen requests today?
Yes. We actually have two that have fulfilled the citizens' request, but I only see one. So we'll call up Reggie Hill to speak with you about a grant. I just want to remind Mr. Hill that per our new policy, there's three minutes. Okay?
Thanks.
Is this the same information you emailed us?
No, sir. This is just basically an outline of the presentation, but the email is more of a detailed
Okay.
idea of what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, to the superintendent, and to the citizens and stakeholders of Mobile County, good morning. My name is Reggie Hill. I am the Executive Director of Success for the Future, a local 501c3 nonprofit organization. We aim to ensure that young people, particularly those at risk, steer clear of pathways that lead to delinquency, social dependency, and incarceration, and that's through implementation of worthwhile behavior intervention and character development programs. Just a little bit about what we do for those who may not know. We hosted the only municipal candidate forum within the county, led by youth, the only youth-led event at the Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce. We also hosted another event called Dripping in Success, where we had the Secretary of State's office come down, print out free voter IDs, and we're constantly working in the community again to improve the quality of education and the quality of life. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to present before you today. Commissioner Masiria Ludgood and the Mobile County Commission just recently appropriated us through contract EFP 164-19, a $10,000 grant to implement our Clogging the Pipeline initiative. And this is where we're going to dilute and eventually eliminate the overcrowded population that we're seeing in our prisons. And we know that a lot of that begins with high disciplinary infractions within the various systems throughout the state. This is not just unique to Mobile County. This is all over the country. But as we are the innovators of education here, I believe that we could be the innovators of putting something in place to bring high-quality education through forms of behavior intervention and character development. Before you is an idea of what exactly we would do. Now, this is far-fetched, and I want you to take it the wrong way. That 10,000 came from Facebook statuses. I wrote an entire year of empowerment ideas, and then I turned it into a book, which is just me. And so what happens is we have an opportunity where we can allow behavior and literacy to be the components in which we change the dynamics in our education sectors. So if you look at your outline, basically what will happen is those schools that are listed, for time's sake, I'll allow you to just read them. I won't list all of them, but it'll be a 25-week opportunity, okay? And if you match this grant here, what you'll see is this is a very pinch penny opportunity of just $400 for each of these weeks to where we can change the dynamics and what's going on. There'll be a phase 1, which will be a 3-week observation period, which you can look at there. Phase 2 will be a 3-week student jury, and then the third phase will be a 3-week survey. Now, phase 4, which is probably the most important component of this, which is outlining those 16 weeks in the second and third pages that you receive, that will explain exactly how we're going to implement this project. The long result will be the young people will put their plans together. The best ones will be rewarded and compensated through a cash reward as well, and they'll present to the leaders of our city and our county, our public safety officials, on how they can dilute behavioral problems, criminal activity, and violence amongst our young people. So I've sent information over to Ms. Abrams, which will give you the detailed proposal, the actual proposal that was approved by the Mobile County Commission, and how we can make this happen. I would love to schedule a time to meet with the president and the board, and I'll be welcome to answer any questions at this time.
Does anyone have any questions? Not at this time. We all got your information, I did, and I haven't finished reading it, but I will get through with that, and I'll
Yeah.
get Ms. Aaron, get back with you.
I think, Reggie, we need time to kind of digest everything that
Yes, sir.
you've given us like that. And then we'll probably have some questions after that.
Absolutely. Like again, I said, I would love to take a moment to sit with you directly and answer any of those questions that you might have. And looking forward to working with the school system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and get into our action items, and we'll start with G1.
All right, before we get into the action items, we have some corrections that we need to make, and I want to apologize up front. We've had some computer issues, and we also had some errors. There were 4 items that was in the consent agenda we had fund sources for them, which was Title IV, but they did not have an amount. So we had to switch those items from consent agenda to the action items. Even though we've already gone over them, we didn't give an amount for them. So I will quickly go over them to give an amount. The first one would be as G7, and that's to Point Academy. And it's to provide music education, and it's coming out of Title IV, and that amount was for $50,000. We also had, that was in the consent agenda that's been switched over to the action items, is G12, was the contract between Alta Point, and that was to provide a mental therapist, and that's also Title IV funds for $37,899. We also had in the consent agenda, that's moved over to the action item, is G29, and that's a contract with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of South Alabama to provide mentoring services. That's also coming out of Title IV for an amount of $45,000. And lastly, that was in the consent agenda that's been transferred to the action item is G30. And that was a contract with the Bridge for a school-based therapist. And that's also Title IV, and that amount is $44,500. We also need to add, and we're going to put it at the end, action item G70, and that's to approve a easement for the installation of fiber optic line. We have a helicopter pad that they use, and the the internet signal is really not equipped, so they need to go in and replace the fiber optic line, and they need permission to do an easement to replace that. And that's in the Sims track. That would be action item G70. G71 is also an addition, and that's the Murphy High School gym floor replacement. There was only one bid, and we recommend the lowest bidder, which was only one, to the Covington Flooring, and that's for $76,524, and that's coming out of PSF funds. That's action item G71. Also, a addition is action item G72. It's the agreement with ATC Health Services. That's to provide a nurse that's coming out of Title I funds to not exceed $55,000. That was action item G72. I also want to bring your attention to G61 that will be pulled. G61 will be pulled. So with that being said, we have action items G 1 through 72, with action item G 61 that will be pulled. So action item G1, the approval of the 2020 budget. I ask that the board approve the 2020 budget presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move, since we've, in our work session, already vetted these, except for the few exceptions that the superintendent has mentioned, and have gone over it and asked questions about them and so forth, I move for approval, action items G 1 through 30.
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion for, and a second for approval of G1 through G30. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, action item G31 is the contract between us and Point Academy. And that's coming out of Title I funds for $40,000. I ask that you approve action item G31,
Mr. Chairman,
Point Academy.
Yes, sir.
in view of the fact that we have vetted these items, as Commissioner Stringfellow said, I move that we approve items 31 through items 69.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve items 31 through 69.
With 61 being pulled, of course.
Right.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Okay, action item, you said 69?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Action item
70.
G70 is the right entry to install fiber optic lines at the SIM track to provide internet service for the helicopter pad. I ask that you approve action item G70.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval, action items G 70 through 72.
Second.
Have a motion and second approval of items G70 through G72. Any further,
Second.
any
Sure.
further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda?
All right, we move to the consent agenda. H1, the agreement, well, it's not an agreement, to approve the Mobile County Strategic Plan. As I mentioned before, it's a 5-year plan. We're ending our 5 years and we're starting a new strategic plan. That's action item, consent item H1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
move approval of consent agenda item 1 through various bids, consent, which is item 21.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Second.
Good. We have a motion and second for approval of items H1 through 21. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Student expulsions.
Student expulsion I1 through I11.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of student expulsions I-1 through 11.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and second for student expulsions 1 through 11. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say what I generally say here, what I noticed in reading several of these student expulsions, that there was no parental involvement in them, which is sad in many respects. And it's my hope and expectation that sometime in the future, we won't have to have this. All of those will be resolved before they get to this particular point. But, you know, when parents are not involved and even come to expulsion hearings or suspension hearings, that's kind of problematic. I move for the question.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Information items.
Information items J1 will be the monthly financial statements. Also, information item J2, purchase orders, 5,000 and over.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, do we have anything?
I sent an email to the board regarding 4 proposed suspension agreements.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the attorney decision in these cases here. I move for their approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Scheduling of meetings. Any meetings?
Do we have any?
Mr. Hack, do those hearings that are scheduled for the weeks preceding, are we getting close to settlement on some of those, or?
One's upcoming, I think 2 of the ones in the next 3 weeks.
Okay,
We-
You-
We're still talking.
okay. Well, we've got them scheduled on those Wednesdays, but you'll let us know, I assume. Okay.
Can I request one thing from Mr. Hack? Over the past 4 or 5 years since we've, the board, and this is part of the board, where we set aside Wednesdays for hearings, and we have reduced our costs for people being on administrative leave and some things. Mr. Hack has got that program together. Ask him to give us a report on that.
Okay.
If he would, give us a report of the savings to the school system, because us being available on those Wednesdays, and a lot of them are being resolved in a timely manner, and we really
Want
up to
a-
date with all of them, I believe. I'd like Mr. Hatton to present a report to the board on that.
You want a dollar amount for your time?
Well, no, however you want to give it. One of us might want that, but,
What I want is, I want you to, whatever savings that we have, you equitably distribute it between the board members.
but it's one of the things where, as we talked about generating additional revenue for the school, doing this has saved a lot of money for the school system that's put right back into the general fund. It's something that we made that commitment to, and I appreciate everybody doing that at the board, because it's really helped a whole lot.
Yes, when we became a board like that, there was quite a backlog from my recollection on
Let
it.
me clarify. So you mentioned 4 or 5 years ago, but you want the current year versus,
Well, just, since we've been doing the program, it's been,
Since we've been
time
doing the
flies,
Wednesdays.
but even this year, you can show some savings of settling those cases versus 3 or 4 months.
Right.
I don't know, but
I got you.
he's done a good job of that, and we appreciate him doing that. So, now we'll go ahead and get to the recognitions, if you don't mind, Renee.
Okay. I would like to call forward Andrea Dennis and Linda Goodson of Phillips Preparatory, and Mary DiVincenzo, Miranda Manley, and Brian Roberts of Clark Shaw, and David Morrow of Instructional Technology, as well as Dr. Brackens.
President, you can be the representative.
If you'll just stand right over here. Done.
Putting something out there.
Clark Shaw School of Math, Science, and Technology and Phillips Preparatory School were recognized as bicentennial schools of excellence in Montgomery for their students' work honoring Alabama's history. Clark Shaw and Phillips are 2 of only 21 schools to receive this honor, which comes with a $5,000 grant. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the projects that won. The 8th grade class at Phillips completed an extensive study of the Holocaust that tied to a community service project to aid contemporary victims of injustice in the Mobile area. Students sponsored a talent show to raise funds and volunteered several afternoons at the Child Advocacy Center. They cleaned, cataloged, and organized toys, stuffed animals, books, and toiletry items donated to the Child Advocacy Center. Clark Shaw students recorded oral histories of their community and family members, ranging from the owner of Mobile landmark Cammie's Old Dutch Ice Cream to a grandparent who helped get a man to space by working for NASA, to family members who settled in Africa Town, to a father who is currently helping immigrants adapt to life in Mobile. They actively engaged with community members to identify stories and candidates for these interviews. These interviews were conducted and recorded by the students and are posted on YouTube for the public to view. Congratulations to both of these schools.
Okay. Dr. Bracken, I would just like to make a suggestion that since they did that background, Africa Town is the most intricate part of the Mobile City historical point too. which is that I would like for them to include their students in the research on Africatown, because I want to get with the superintendent to try to introduce a curriculum to study the history of those Africans who came in 1859, because they were unique because of the cultural value that they explored, and I like to expose your students to those same types of activities.
Squeeze in a little bit. All right, hold up here. All right, ready, 1, 2, oh, wait. Ready, 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, okay. One more, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment.
Clark Shaw.
The,
You the principal?
Yes, I'm the teacher. in
That's
charge
okay.
of the project. Yes, sir. She'll get that process between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent and Mr. Chairman, if the teachers will wait just a second and the principals, just a moment, since you waited the whole board meeting, we're going to do it. I'd just like to say, Mr. Superintendent, how proud I am of the principals and the teachers involved. This is the kind of things that when you talk about giving 110%, this is the kind of thing that really makes education fun and meaningful for our children, and for these folks to go out and do what they did, and to be recognized as 20 or 21 of the very best in the state of Alabama, I think says an awful lot for them, and I just want to let you know how proud I am of you. So thank you what you do.
And I'd just like to add Dr. Brackens to that for her leadership too.
Yeah, so, just kind of close out, what, Ms. Stringfellow, Dr. Stringfellow. I can't tell what his doctor is at the end, but anyway, so we appreciate what y'all doing, and I think it's very important for like Dr. Bracken and her staff and Mr. Threadgill and his staff get recognition for those programs that are going on in our schools, and as board members, we're proud of everything y'all do, and sometimes we get, people look at us and we get our picture made, but we really appreciate what y'all do, and so I think it's important for y'all to be recognized for the work y'all do in all our departments, so we appreciate it, and we appreciate y'all's hard work. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Crenshaw's not here, so somebody's got to do it.
Well, I'd like to make one
Okay.
one statement too. I want to thank the superintendent, Dr. Brackens, and all the groups that were involved in this time's Magnum memo. Speaking of keeping the board informed, if you read that, you'll find out a lot more about our school system. As board members, you'll find out a lot more about our school system, and I just think that's an excellent addition to what we have going on in the school system relative to keeping the board particularly informed and that kind of thing. So certainly hats off to the superintendent and his staff for the Magnum memo that we received.
I concur with that because I thought it was really a lot of good information, Dr. Foster, and not only contacts and people who are doing what and so forth, but I commend you for doing that because it was really a great thing.
Well, I commend it first, so don't y'all try to take the credit.
But I do want to make a note that that's Joy, Dr. Bracken's secretary, that heads that up. She does all the contact of the division heads, so she does an excellent job with that. So it's really not me, it's Joy, so if you'll give Joy a big round of applause.
Okay.
All right, I move for adjournment.
Second.
A motion second adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all for coming.